The wine bottle was still sweating on the table when the last train rumbled by our apartment. I lit the candle at 7 p.m. sharp, her favorite scent, that vanilla and pinewood mix she once said smelled like a memory you don't want to let go of. The food had gone cold by 8:15. By 9 o'clock, I had memorized every line in the note I wrote her. I didn't call. I didn't text again. She had already messaged once. Crazy night at work. Don't wait up, love. Not even a full sentence. Not even a sorry. The thing is, I had already seen the reservation confirmation in her inbox that morning. The restaurant name I didn't recognize. Timestamped. 2 seats. Confirmed. She hadn't even bothered to delete it. So I waited. Not for her, but for the truth to sit still long enough that I couldn't deny it anymore. At 10:47 p.m., I opened the app and watched her little blue location flicker at the exact place that reservation promised, a rooftop French bistro downtown where you can see the skyline kiss the bay. I zoomed in, as if that would soften the blow. But all I saw was her, 20 floors up, in a dress she said no longer fit, laughing across from a boy who looked barely old enough to vote. She was slicing a shared dessert, feeding him the first bite. He leaned in. She tilted her head. The kiss wasn't quick. That's when I stood up, walked to the bedroom, and did the quietest thing I've ever done in my life. I packed 2 bags. Essentials only. I didn't slam drawers. I didn't cry. I folded the letter I wrote her for our 5th anniversary and slid it into the same drawer where she kept old movie stubs from our first date. I unplugged my phone, turned off every light, but I left the candle burning. I wanted her to come home and feel it, feel the stillness, the ghost of what could have been, the warmth that kept glowing in my absence. I wanted the scent to stick to her clothes when she threw herself on the bed and pretended to wonder what had happened. And then I walked out, past our front door, down the 3 flights, out into the silence of a city that didn't care what night it was for me. By sunrise, I was gone. Not a word left behind, except one sticky note taped to the mirror. I saw everything. Please feed the candle if you still believe in fire. The next morning, I watched the sunrise from a nameless parking lot just off the interstate, sitting in my car with a stale gas station croissant and a black coffee that tasted more like burnt paper than caffeine. I hadn't slept. Not a second. I kept replaying the way she tilted her head to laugh at that boy's joke, how her hand rested so comfortably on his wrist like it had done it 100 times before. That wasn't infatuation. That was routine. She had rehearsed this betrayal. But what she hadn't rehearsed was the silence I left behind. By 9:12 a.m., she'd sent her first text. Where are you? I didn't answer. 9:37 a.m. Curtis? Did something happen? Nope. 10:01 a.m. Babe, this isn't funny. Your stuff is gone. Are you okay? That one made me flinch a little. Are you okay? Like she was the worried one. Like she hadn't just spoon-fed tiramisu to a college boy while I sat alone on our anniversary. But I still didn't reply. At 10:48 a.m., my phone started ringing. I watched it buzz across the dashboard, her name flashing like a siren. I let it go to voicemail. The next ring wasn't her. It was her sister, then her boss, then our neighbor, Clark, the guy with the annoying dog that barks at shadows. I let them all go. By noon, she texted me 16 times. The messages grew more panicked, more fragmented, more desperate. I knew what was happening. She had gotten home. She had stepped into our apartment and felt something wrong in the air, something missing, something final. I imagined her running to the bedroom, yanking open the dresser, and seeing the letter drawer half empty. I imagined her whispering my name, hoping I was just in the bathroom or out grabbing milk. But I wasn't. And then she opened the closet. Now, this part? This was deliberate. The top shelf of our closet held a row of old shoeboxes. Most were empty, except for one. A plain brown box with no label, no markings, nothing. Just dust and memories. She once asked about it, and I told her, that's for a bad day. She never questioned it again. Inside that box were every little clue she had ever given me but didn't think I noticed. A receipt from a hotel 2 towns over, dated a weekend I'd been away at my mom's. A gym lock that didn't match any locker sheet ever used. A necklace I'd never seen her wear, but found tangled under the seat of her car. A restaurant napkin with smeared lipstick that wasn't her shade. In the piece de resistance, a photo. I never planned to print it, but something in me had to see it on paper. It was a grainy zoomed-in shot from across the street, taken the night before. Her hand on his chest. Him grinning like he'd won something. And her eyes, God, her eyes, they weren't guilty. They were free. Taped to the photo was my final message. Happy anniversary. Don't worry, he's young. He can teach you how to lie better. She must have found that around 12:30, because at 12:34 p.m., I got the voicemail. I didn't mean to listen. I really didn't. I hovered over the delete button, but something in me pressed play instead. Her voice was trembling. She said my name 7 times in the first 20 seconds. Said she didn't know what I saw. Said I didn't understand. Said I misinterpreted everything. And then, she started crying. But it wasn't grief. It was panic. Not because she lost me. Because she couldn't control the story anymore. What happened after that voicemail was not what I expected. She didn't chase me. She didn't go to the police. She went somewhere far darker. She started telling everyone a lie so big, even I almost believed it. I thought she'd stay quiet. Honestly, I believed that. I thought she'd retreat into whatever pit she'd dug with that boy and lick her wounds in silence. Maybe tell a few friends she messed up. Maybe cry to her sister and admit that I saw too much. But Danica didn't do that. She didn't own anything. Instead, she weaponized the one thing she'd always been excellent at: control of the narrative. The first sign was subtle. I'd been hiding out in a dusty, roadside rental property just a few towns over, a place so forgettable even GPS got confused. I had turned my phone back on for only 5 minutes, purely to transfer some money from our shared account to the one I'd opened years ago just in case. I didn't touch the unread texts, but a notification slipped through, an email from my former boss. Hey Curtis, just checking in. I've heard some strange things. Call me. I hadn't spoken to Evan since last Christmas, so to get a message like that made the hairs on my neck stand up. I called from a burner I bought at a gas station, already bracing myself for the worst. He answered immediately. His tone was low, cautious, the kind people use when they're not sure if you're about to explode. Look, man, I'm not prying, but there's talk going around that you're in some kind of trouble. With Danica. I asked, what kind of trouble? There was a pause. She's telling people you left because you had a breakdown. Like, mental health crisis level. Said you were seeing things that weren't real, that you thought she was cheating, but that it's all a misunderstanding and she's just trying to get you help. My mouth actually went dry. I didn't even know that was a real thing until that moment. She was rewriting our entire collapse as some kind of delusion, like I'd invented her affair out of thin air, like I was the unstable one. And worst of all, people were believing her. Why wouldn't they? Danica was calm. Danica was charming. Danica cried when the waiter forgot her dressing, but could sell lies with a straight face. Meanwhile, I just disappeared. I ended the call with Evan quickly. My voice cracked when I thanked him. He didn't say much after that. For the next few hours, I stared at the wall in the dim little cabin I now called home. Something inside me was shifting, not anger, not even grief. It was something colder. A kind of realization that there's no fair judge in life's courtroom. The one who gets the sympathy is usually the one who shows up first with a better story. I needed to act. Not to ruin her, not to fight fire with fire, but to prove, if not to others, then to myself, that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't hallucinated the betrayal that had split me open. So I began gathering everything. Every receipt, every timestamp, every photo. I had digital backups of everything I'd ever uploaded or auto-synced to the cloud. I had our joint calendar, her gym check-ins, gas station charges far from work on days she said she stayed late. I even had screenshots of her messages with her trainer, whose messages had taken a hard turn into flirty emojis and late-night requests. And then, there was the footage. I'd forgotten I once installed a dash cam with a parking mode, something I got after a break-in months ago. That same cam, without her knowing, had recorded her stepping into her car in a red dress the night of our anniversary. It caught her checking her lipstick in the mirror. And it caught her giggling on the phone. No, Curtis still thinks I'm stuck at work. I know. He's such a ugh. I'll be there in 20. I played that part about a dozen times. Her voice didn't shake. She didn't hesitate. Just pure confidence. Like lying to me was second nature. I uploaded that clip, along with a few key screenshots and image timestamps, to a secure folder. I labeled it with the one word I knew she couldn't twist: truth. I still wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. But I had it. And that changed something in me. Because while she was out there pretending to be the abandoned victim of a fragile man, I was quietly, patiently, meticulously building something that she couldn't delete, couldn't manipulate, and couldn't ever prepare for. But before I could decide what to do next, someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. No one knew where I was. No one. When I opened it, I nearly fell backward. It was her mother, and what she said next made my blood run cold. For a few seconds, all I could do was stare. I hadn't seen Meredith, Danica's mother, in over a year. We never had a particularly close relationship. She was always polite, yes, even warm in that distant, suburban way, but she had a sharpness to her. Not aggressive, exactly, more like a blade tucked behind her words. Controlled, poised, and observant. When she looked at you, it felt like she saw past whatever expression you wore and cataloged your soul. And now here she was, standing in front of a rundown rental cabin with a purse slung over her shoulder and my wedding ring in the palm of her hand. I blinked. Meredith. She gave a tired nod. May I come in, Curtis? I didn't say yes. I just stepped aside, still in a sort of daze. She walked in slowly, glancing around the tiny room, her eyes landing on the half-unpacked duffel by the couch, the takeout containers, the pile of receipts I'd been organizing. She didn't comment on any of it. She turned, still holding the ring between her fingers. I'm not here on Danica's behalf, she said flatly. Let's get that clear first. I sat down slowly. Then why are you here? Meredith took the armchair across from me, crossing her legs, and sighed through her nose like she'd rehearsed this moment 100 times and still hated every version of it. She opened her purse and took out a small velvet box. Inside was a letter, handwritten, folded 3 ways, and sealed with red wax. It was addressed to her. From Danica's father. I know you think I'm the cold one, she said, setting the box on the coffee table. But you never knew her father. He saw things in Danica that I didn't want to admit. Things I ignored for too long. I didn't respond. I didn't know how. The entire room felt like it had tilted. She's lied before, Meredith continued, her voice quieter now. Manipulated. It started in high school. She convinced a teacher that another student had stolen her term paper. Had the boy suspended. Turned out Danica never even wrote the paper. She paused. Her father confronted her. She cried. Said he hated her. That he wished she were someone else. He didn't, of course. He just wanted her to stop, bending the truth until it broke people. I was gripping the arm of the couch so hard my knuckles had gone white. She told me what happened, Meredith added after a beat. That you snapped. That you were obsessive. That you accused her of cheating with no proof and stormed out. But I saw your letter. I saw the closet. And more importantly, I saw her face when I mentioned your name. She didn't look hurt. She looked cornered. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a flash drive. I found this taped under the bottom drawer in your nightstand. I assume it's yours. It was. I'd hidden it there months ago, long before any of this happened. My own private vault of anything I couldn't bring myself to delete, including old voicemails, photos, and even a few of Danica's suspicious texts I never confronted her about. I took it slowly, my hands shaking. I'm not here to fix your marriage, Meredith said. Frankly, I don't think it can be fixed. But I am here because my daughter is spiraling. She's lying to everyone. Her coworkers, our friends, even her therapist. And I need you to know that. I believe you. I believe you, Curtis. I hadn't realized I was holding my breath until I let it out in a stuttering exhale. That one phrase, I believe you, undid something inside me. All the doubt, all the second-guessing, all the voices in my head whispering, what if she's right? What if you imagined it? They went quiet. She called me this morning, Meredith said, standing up. Said she wanted to start fresh. Said she was considering doing a podcast. A podcast about healing after abandonment. I scoffed before I could stop myself. She was going to make content out of this. Meredith met my eyes, and for the first time, her composure cracked just slightly. She's going to spin this until she's the hero. And I can't stop her. But maybe you can. If not for revenge, then for the truth. She handed me the ring. She left this in your sock drawer. Not by accident. She wanted you to find it gone. She wanted it to sting. Then she left. Just like that. Walked out the door without asking for anything. Without offering a hug or some empty platitude. She simply left me with a velvet box, a flash drive, and the sharp, unfamiliar ache of being believed after so many days of silence. But what Meredith didn't know, what no one knew, was that I had already put a plan into motion. And the first part of that plan? It involved a reservation under a fake name, at the exact same restaurant where she had kissed that boy. Because if she wanted to play with stories, I'd give her one she couldn't rewrite. It had rained the entire day leading up to it. The sky stayed this low, bloated gray, like it was holding back something heavier than water. But I didn't care about the weather. I had one thing in mind getting to that restaurant, that rooftop temple of deception, not as a guest, not as the husband, but as a ghost. I booked the reservation under a name I made up on the spot, Simon Harrow. A name with no connection to me. I used a burner phone, a preloaded credit card, and even signed up with a new email. I didn't want Danica, or anyone close to her, to trace this back to me, not until I wanted them to. My table was on the opposite end of the rooftop, tucked behind a decorative wall of planters. I asked for that specifically, told the hostess I had anxiety about crowds, and preferred not to be near foot traffic. I didn't even flinch as I said it. Lies flow easier when you're just echoing the behavior of someone who taught you how. I arrived 20 minutes early, brought a book I didn't read, sipped a cocktail I didn't taste, and waited. I had already checked her location history again, and just like before, she was en route. I imagined the scene playing out in her car, lipstick in the mirror, spray of perfume, the quick mirror pep talk. This time, though, she wasn't walking into a romantic escape. She was walking into a theater. I had front row seats. At 7:08 p.m., I saw her. She stepped out of the elevator, wearing a soft beige coat over a navy blue dress. I didn't recognize it, which meant it was probably new. She looked around briefly, scanning the tables, then smiled. The boy followed seconds later. Same boy. Still looked like he had finals coming up. He wore a button-down that was wrinkled at the bottom and a blazer that clearly wasn't his size. He was playing adult, and she was letting him. They took a seat at the same table she had shared with me once, years ago, on a much colder night when she wore gloves and called me her safe place. I listened. That was the hard part. I didn't have the nerve to sit still and hear their laughter without something to hold me up. So I used the audio tool I'd hidden in the book, something cheap and legal, but discreet enough to pick up everything. It recorded from inside the spine, triggered by motion. I tested it for a week. It worked like a charm. They talked about her new independence, about how she'd finally gotten out of that suffocating thing, and how men like that never understand what it means to grow. He asked her if she missed me. She laughed. No, he's too busy playing victim to notice he's the one who vanished like a coward. It wasn't just what she said. It was the way she said it. So confidently, like she believed the lies she'd manufactured and sold to everyone around her. And that's when I saw something different in her face, something that wasn't just manipulation. It was performance. Danica had convinced herself that I was the villain, that she was some tragic heroine. And this boy? He wasn't a lover. He was a prop, a mirror that reflected back the fantasy she needed to believe. The moment came near the end of their meal. The waiter brought out dessert. It was the same cake I saw her feeding him last time. She did it again. Same fork, same angle, same smirk. Deja vu that tasted like betrayal. And just as she reached forward to offer him the first bite, I stood up. I didn't walk over to them. I wasn't interested in a dramatic confrontation. No shouting, no spilled drinks, no bitter monologue. That wasn't the plan. Instead, I walked right past their table slowly, intentionally, just close enough for her to catch the outline of my face. Just enough for her to wonder, was that? I didn't look at her. I didn't give her that. But I saw the color drain from her expression in my peripheral vision. She froze, fork in hand, dessert untouched. The boy looked confused. She turned her head to follow me, but by the time she fully turned, I was already gone. I took the stairs, not the elevator. Slipped out through the rear alley. The night air hit me hard, like I had been holding my breath for weeks and only just now remembered how to exhale. That moment wasn't for revenge. It was to remind her, I was still out here. I saw her once. I could see her again. I could choose silence, or I could choose exposure. And she had no idea which way I would go. But that wasn't the only surprise waiting for her. Because the very next morning, I released something. Not to the public. Not online. But to him, the boy. And what he did next. It tore her whole illusion down in less than 12 hours. I didn't sleep that night. But I wasn't restless. I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, clarity. For the first time since I saw her feeding him cake under those soft rooftop lights, my thoughts had weight, direction. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was choosing, calculating. It's a strange kind of calm that comes when you stop trying to salvage something and start setting it down gently to burn. The file I sent him was small. No explanation. No angry rant. Just a video, barely 2 minutes long, and a text. You deserve to know the truth before you waste any more time being a prop. I found his number through an online payment screen Danica had left open on her laptop a while back. He had ordered something dumb, custom socks with her initials. I remembered because I'd laughed then. Now I saw it as a gift. The receipt had his full name, email, and number. People forget how traceable they are when they're in love with a fantasy. The video wasn't from the restaurant. It was earlier, months ago. I'd forgotten I even had it. She was on our balcony, talking on the phone with someone. I couldn't hear the voice on the other end, but her words were clear. She was pacing in that casual way she did when she wasn't trying to hide. She called him her little secret. Said things like, "No, he still has no clue," and then laughed like it was all some sitcom plot twist. I paired that with a screen recording of her old messages I had saved from her smartwatch sync. Messages where she referred to him as a temporary escape, a distraction, and, worst of all, just dumb enough not to ask questions. I didn't hear back from him that morning. I didn't expect to. Honestly, I didn't even know if he'd open it. But by late afternoon, I found out he had. And not from him, from her. Around 3:40 p.m., I received the first email from Danica since I vanished. The subject line was blank. The message was short. "What did you do to him? He's gone. Won't answer me. Deleted everything. What did you send?" I read it 5 times. Not because I was shocked, but because it was satisfying in a sick, slow drip kind of way. She didn't ask if it was true. She didn't deny anything. She just panicked. That was the key. Her power wasn't in convincing others of her story, it was in silencing them from telling theirs. And now, for the first time, someone she thought she controlled had chosen me over her. Later that night, I got an anonymous message through an encrypted text app one had linked to my burner number. I knew it was him. He didn't say his name, but I recognized the style. The typos. The abrupt punctuation. I didn't know. I swear. I thought you left her. She said you were controlling. That you were depressed and angry all the time. I didn't want to be a thief. I didn't even know you existed until a month ago. She said she was separated. I'm so sorry. There was no request for forgiveness. Just a quiet attempt at atonement. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The damage wasn't mine to clean up anymore. But Danica? She wasn't built to sit still while her illusion cracked. And with him gone, her next move was inevitable. She reached out to her circle, trying to get ahead of the story. She claimed I was manipulating a child to hurt her, that I was stalking from the shadows, even dropped the phrase digital abuse in one conversation that found its way to me. But something was different this time. Because the boy didn't stay silent. He didn't play along. He went nuclear. I hadn't asked him to. But he posted screenshots, emails, voice notes, proof that she lied about everything from her marriage status to her age to her promises about their future together. He wrote a long caption on some forum thread where he detailed how manipulated he felt, how stupid and used he was. He never named her, but he didn't have to. People connected the dots. Fast. The result? Her reputation, which had been her greatest weapon, began to rot from the inside out. Friends stopped calling. Her influencer podcast idea got dropped by the minor platform she had pitched. Someone even messaged me anonymously to say they'd pulled her from a women's panel at a local conference because things weren't adding up. And me? I said nothing. I just watched. For once, the truth didn't need me to shout. It walked on its own. But just when I thought she'd finally collapse under her own weight, she did something I never expected. She found my father. And that meeting nearly destroyed what little peace I had left. I hadn't spoken to my father in almost 6 months. That wasn't because we had a falling out or some tragic family fracture. It was quieter than that. We'd simply drifted. He wasn't the type to hover, and I wasn't the kind to initiate. After Mom died, the glue that held our occasional conversations together dried up. Our calls became fewer, shorter, more polite than real. He loved me, I know he did, but he also saw me as fragile, a delicate son in need of thicker skin. He never said that directly, but it was always in his tone. So when I saw his name light up my burner phone that morning, I thought maybe he had finally heard the whispers. Maybe someone had told him the truth. But I was wrong. His voice was calm, too calm. Not warm, not cold. Just flat. "Curtis," he said, "I had a visit." My heart didn't just sink. It plummeted. "Who?" He didn't say it right away. I heard his breath instead, like he was trying to pace the words. "Danica came by. Yesterday. Said she wanted to talk." I didn't speak. I didn't breathe. I just waited, every cell in my body locked in place like I'd stepped on a landmine and couldn't risk moving. "She told me you were unstable." That you disappeared after accusing her of things she never did. She said you're hiding, and that you've cut off everyone. Her, friends, even me, because you're ashamed. Said she just wanted to help you find your way back. I could hear the doubt in his voice. But I also heard something worse, uncertainty. She looked upset, he added. Not fake. I've seen fake, Curtis. She looked like someone who lost a husband she still cared about. My throat was dry. And did you believe her? A long pause. I didn't want to. But I haven't heard from you. Not a word. And if what she said wasn't true, why go to such lengths to disappear? I laughed. It wasn't joyful. It was hollow and bitter, the sound of something unraveling from deep inside. You think I vanished because I'm guilty? Because I couldn't face her? I don't know what to think, he said. That's why I'm calling. Because I need you to tell me. What happened? So I told him. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't spiral. I just spoke. Slowly. Clearly. From the first lie to the rooftop kiss. From the voicemail to the stage sob stories. From the boy to the fallout. And finally, to the knock at my cabin door from a woman who had once called me the best thing that ever happened to her daughter. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Not even breathing. Then finally, my dad said, "She lied to me. She lied to everyone." I replied, "No," he said quietly. "She lied about you to me." And I believed her. Even for a second. That's on me. That cracked something open. I don't know what it was. Maybe the last wall I'd built to keep myself numb. But I suddenly found myself shaking, sitting alone at the edge of a motel bed, my phone in one hand and my wedding ring in the other. I wasn't crying. It was something deeper. The realization that being believed by your father feels different. It hits harder. It heals slower. She wanted to see your childhood photos, he added. Said she missed who you used to be. I let her into the house. She touched the photo albums. She sat in your mother's chair. My grip tightened on the phone. She invaded your memories, Curtis, as if they were hers to rewrite. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because that's when the real plan hit me. She wasn't done with me. Not even close. Danica had lost control of her boy toy, her image, and now her story was collapsing. But she wasn't going to fade quietly. She was going to reclaim her victimhood, one sympathetic witness at a time. She had already started grooming the next act. And it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone I'd touched. I had to stop her, not to ruin her, but to put a wall between her and the past she was trying to hijack. So I called Meredith, told her everything, and she didn't hesitate. "Come home," she said. "It's time." Home. That word felt foreign now, but I agreed. Because the next part? It wasn't about hiding. It was about stepping into the very space she thought she controlled, our home, and taking back everything she tried to erase. But what I found waiting there, just inside the door, chilled me more than anything she'd ever said. Because Danica hadn't just been rewriting stories. She'd been collecting something. Something dangerous. The house looked exactly as I left it, but also not at all. The driveway still had that slight tilt that pulled water after rain. The porch light was flickering, same as it always had. My name was still on the mailbox, though someone had smeared the label like they were trying to erase it with their thumb. But inside it was colder. Cleaner. Too clean. Sanitized. Like a hotel room pretending to be a home. Meredith met me at the curb. She didn't say much. Just nodded and handed me the spare key I'd forgotten we'd even given her years ago. Her presence gave me the courage I didn't realize I needed. I stepped through the front door and paused in the entryway, breathing it in. Not the scent of cinnamon air freshener or the hint of lavender from the diffuser, but the weight of it. The emotional sediment that builds up when a place remembers what really happened within its walls. The first thing I noticed was that she'd taken down every photo of us. Not a single wedding picture. Not a frame of us hiking in Oregon. Even the goofy photo booth stripped from a friend's birthday, gone. Replaced with abstract art and empty frames, as if even she hadn't had time to finish the rewrite. But what she hadn't removed was the closet. I opened it slowly, half expecting her to have burned or tossed everything I'd left behind. But the shoebox was still there, the one I'd filled with evidence, the one I knew she'd found. Except now, it wasn't just one. There were 3 more. I opened the first and felt my stomach twist. It wasn't evidence against me, it was against herself. Printouts of text messages, receipts, photos. A journal entry she'd written in pencil, the words furious and messy. I don't know why I lie. I just do. I can't stop. I thought Curtis was too soft to leave. I thought wrong. I checked the next box. More pages. Letters she had written but never sent. Some were apologies. Some were confessions. One, folded neatly in an envelope with no stamp, was addressed to me. I held it in my hands for a full minute before opening it. Curtis, I know I hurt you. I know you won't believe anything I say now, and maybe that's fair. But I need you to know, I thought if I broke everything, I'd feel free. I thought pain was power. But I'm the one who lost everything. You were never weak. You were just kind, and I mistook that for softness. That's on me. If I never see you again, I hope someone gives you what I couldn't. Peace. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and placed it back inside the box. And I sat there, for a long time, on the floor of the closet where our lives had unraveled. And I felt calm. Danica wasn't home. Meredith said she'd gone to stay with a friend, someone who didn't know the full story. And maybe that was for the best. There didn't need to be a confrontation, no final shouting match or cinematic goodbye. The truth had already done its work. I left the house that afternoon with only one bag. No anger. No regrets. Just a quiet sense of closure. 3 weeks later, I moved into a small townhouse near the edge of the city. It's nothing fancy, but the windows let in the morning light, and there's a bookstore down the street that sells coffee strong enough to make you forget the past for a while. I've started volunteering at a local nonprofit, just something part-time, helping young people write resumes, teaching them how to present themselves with confidence. Funny, isn't it? I thought I'd lost mine completely. But I found that when you teach others how to stand tall, you start to straighten your own spine without realizing it. And the biggest surprise? My dad called last week. Not out of obligation, just to talk. We laughed about something dumb on TV, and at one point, he said, "You sound better. Lighter." I smiled. Because he was right. Danica's chapter in my life didn't end with a dramatic fire. It ended with quiet truth. With honesty laid bare in cardboard boxes, and a man finally realizing he didn't need permission to heal. Not all stories need a villain to end. Sometimes they just need the hero to walk away stronger, smarter, and ready to begin again. And that's what I'm doing. Beginning again. One day at a time.